How's it going? All right, it's another day, another problem. So today we're gonna try to solve a question called three sums. Now, this question actually sounds very similar. I had an earlier video which I did, and we tried to solve two sums. That's pretty much, given an array and given a target, trying to find two variables that add up to that one target, right? This question is taking that thought process to the next level, and we're trying to find three numbers that equal to something. So, like I said, this question is called three sum, and let's read the question. It's a medium difficulty, but once I explain the solution to you, it actually seems very intuitive and very, I guess, very easy. So let's look at the question. It says, given an array of numbers, okay, of n integers, so that's key. Are there elements a, b, c in that array of numbers such that a plus b plus c equals to 0? Find all unique triplets in the array with a given number of sum of 0. So in layman's term, you're giving a bunch of numbers, and you want to make sure those bunch of numbers, you can find three of them combined together, if you add it, would equal to 0. Simple enough, right? Okay, cool. So let's look at an example. So one of the examples they've given us is this array over here. -1, 0, 1, 2, -1, and -4, right? So one of the things that they did from this set is like, okay, well, what are three numbers that get equal to 0? Obviously, the first three, or there's could be like the -1, and the 2, right? So that's kind of cool. One of the keynotes, remember, they mentioned here is like the solution set must not contain any duplicate triplets. So meaning it must be a unique set, right? So with that keeping in mind, that mindset, how can we solve this problem, right? So let's jot down some notes. This question looks similar to two sums. Maybe we can use some of its logic to do it. If you follow along, I think you probably know why I mentioned that. So one of the really cool things we could think about here is that we know our ultimate target. We know that adding these three numbers, you must equal to 0, right? Well, we need to add a couple of things to do, right? We're gonna set a couple of variables first. I'm gonna go like and I'm gonna set like this is another way of setting your variables. So I'm gonna set my solution variable, a left variable, and a right variable. I'll explain what these are in a second. So my first variable, my solution will be an array. My left variable will be 0, and my right variable will be the nums.length -1. Right. So all this is just very easy way for me to explain, or at least instantiate these variables. So what am I going to do here? So when we think about, if given an array, you have to choose three variables, right? So the thought process I have for this one is like, it looks very similar to two sums, where in two sum question, you're given one target and you have to find what a variable, if that other variable contains, like for two other variables contain, add together would equal to this one target, right? So if we think about it that way, then in theory, this can be a variation of that problem. What I mean by that is that as you iterate through each of these elements, well, that element can be, in a sense, your target. Or in a more simple text, is like, given that target, can you find two other things within the subarray that will equal to that target, right? So it's almost like what I'm trying to say here, a way to solve this is we're going to apply some of the logic that we had in two sums, but apply it here dynamically. I'm going to think about it as I'm sitting on -1, and I'm going to try to use some sort of really key attributes that were part of two sums and apply it to here. Now, in two sums, we had a couple of very unique cases where the array that we're dealing with was sorted, right? Because once you have a sorted array, that actually helps do a lot of things. It's a little bit slightly more predictable, right? So one of the very first things I want to do is actually, since it never said anywhere in here saying that the array was sorted, so I'm actually going to sort it, because by sorting it, you have indirectly know the leftmost region, the leftmost section will be the lowest, and your rightmost section will be the highest. And that is very critical. So let's go here and check it out. So I'm going to actually take the nums dot sort it, and the syntax is A and B, and boom. And I'm going to actually return the A in ascending order, minus B, right? So what this really does is, all right, I'm going to take the number, right, that array number, and I'm going to sort it. So in this case, it's just going to be something like, okay, -1, -1, -1, 0, 1, 1, and 2. I know I almost missed this one, which is -4, right? Once it's sorted, it should be in this way. But remember what I mentioned earlier, right? I said that, okay, if we're gonna think about two sums and we know a little bit of math, we can off the top of our head think of, okay, there's no way in heck that anything greater than 0, if you add it together, will ever be 0, right? So one of the conditions we could actually check here before we even do anything is actually check whether or not, as you iterate, you will find something that's 0. But let's pause before we think about that first. There's one edge case that I haven't mentioned here, which is, well, what if you're given an array that, is less than size 3, right? So that edge case, we need to handle that first. And that case is, I'm going to check the length. If my nums.length is less than 3, then I'm just going to return an empty array, because I believe that's what they want, right? They just give you a set. Yeah, that's what they want. So I'm going to return an empty array. So in our case, solution right now is an empty array. I'm just going to return the solution. Great. Cool. All right. So as I was mentioning, what we need to do right now is, iterate through this array. And then what I'm iterating on, or what I'm landing on, that is effectively my target. Now, but target condition is kind of slightly different, as in, if I'm on sitting, this is my target 4, I need to check within this subarray if there's 2 elements that will add up to be positive 4, right? So that's kind of cool. So let's go and iterate through this particular element, which is, I'm going to go for let, I'm going to try to decompose it a little bit. So I'm going to put my index here and my number, and I'm going to go of, and then it's going to be nums.entries, entries. Cool. So right now we're basically going to extrapolate every index and number as we go along this particular array, right? Now, one of the first conditions I mentioned earlier on is, if I ever land on a condition where my target is going to be 0, anything subsequent to that, there's no way in heck it's going to be added to become actually the value that I want, or added to be 0, because you can't add positive numbers to have a negative effect, right? So that's the first condition I'm going to check. If my number is greater than 0, I'm going to get the heck out. Return my solution. All right, cool. The next thing I want to check is, well, if my number and my next number are the same, then I should probably just skip it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check my number. If that is equal to my nums at pretty much the index -1. So I'm saying, like, if I'm only at this condition right here, and my previous one is the same number as me, I'm going to skip this number, because there's no point in getting that, because we're looking for a unique set, right? So in this case, I'm also going to return, or I'm going to continue. I'll continue with my life. Cool. So it's going to be like, okay, cool. Iter here, here. Oh, it's the same stuff here. So why bother? I'm going to go continue. Great. All right. So right now, I'm going to start defining my left flag, my left and right. What is left and right, right? So, my left and right is pretty much defining the 2 pointers of the subarray I'm trying to look for, and see if it ties back into my target, right? So I'm going to go set my left to be equal to my index plus 1, because where I'm sitting at right now, for example, 4, I want my index, my left target would be -1, and my right will equal to nums.length minus 1. So what is this going to do? Effectively, this is going to be your -1. This is going to be your 2. Great. And your number, I'm going to put it here as well, hidden here, number is equal to -4 right now at this particular case, right? Just for our mindset of thing. And I'm going to construct a temporary thing. Let temp equal to 0. So what this temp is going to do is, as I go along checking variables, I want to make sure if I add it together would equal to 0, right? So now it's the time to actually apply the sub problem of two sums in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go while my left is less than my right, meaning that these two elements from left and right, these will never cross each other. I must do something, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to calculate the actual math behind it, which is, number plus, my nums at left plus my nums at my right. Would that equal to 0? If the temporary number is going to be equal to 0, or you could make it equal to 0, or you could do this fun stuff, but I'm just going to make it equal to 0 so it's easier, very, very, very obvious what it is. If it's equal to 0, what we're going to do, we're going to actually start pushing this particular set into the solution, right? So I'm going to go solution.push a array, which the first number is number, the second one is nums at left, right? And my third one would be nums at right. Great. Cool. And then what do I do after that? I need to make sure I'm going to increase my, because I already found one set, right? When I'm at 4 and I found, just pretend this is like, these two numbers will be, or just say 3, for example, right? Or I'll put it at 5, for example. So I already know that, okay, cool. These two, that's my first set. 4, -1, and 5, that's my first set. Cool. But I need to find all the subsequent sets, right? So I'm going to go and check my next one, and next one, and the next one. So I need to ensure that I increment my left by 1 more. And my right, I'm going to decrement it by 1 more because we already pulled those 3 numbers from our set here, right? Cool. All right. But one thing to note though, they never said that nums is going to be a set. So there can be duplicates, right? What we can do here to speed up our time is actually just forget about the duplicates and move our index along. So I'm going to go while my left is less than right, which is the same condition on here on the top. And my nums at left equals to, nums at left equals to nums at left minus 1. So I'm saying that the value I'm on is going to be equal to the value that's on my one index left, and also at my left is less than my right. Then I'm just gonna move along that index along until the point where they're not the same, right? So while doing this, I'm just gonna go, okay, cool. I'm gonna move my left index, keep increasing it. Cool. Now let's do that also for the right side. Same thing here. I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to make it on the right side is equal to my right. Cool. And my right plus 1. Right? Cool. My right plus or minus. Cool. So right now it's like this deals with all the duplicates. We don't have to worry about it. That means it's almost like a moving window. That's your target. Cool, move it onto a place where they're both unique. Cool, move on. And then yeah, pretty much that will get you to a point where, okay, now you're moving up. You checked this one condition, which is if it equals to 0, then you do all this wonderful stuff, right? But what if it doesn't equal to 0, right? What if your temporary does not equal to 0? So this is where basically it's the same thing as two sums, right? Else if my temp is greater than 0 or greater than 0, what do I do? Same thing as what I do with my two sums, which is I'm gonna go increase my left plus plus, and else if my temp is less than 0, what do I do? Over here, I'm gonna do, oh, wait, hold on a minute. This is temporary number is greater than 0, right? So I actually need to make sure I'm decrementing it on the right side, because we're thinking about like, we're trying to get closest to 0 by adding these two numbers, and because it's sorted, then we know what to increase and decrease, right? So over here, I'm gonna go to my left, we'll be increasing it, and great. And pretty much, I think we're almost there. Now, one element that we are missing here, which I always tell people to do, is make sure you return the solution. So I'm gonna do that, return the solution, right? All right, cool. So let's go through a quick walkthrough of how this works for this particular use case, and then we can go through like the actual solution, submit, and see if it works, right? Because we have to validate. So when we're giving this nums array, right, we're gonna start with this number. We're gonna come down here, check if it's less than 3. No, obviously it's not less than 3, so let's continue. Great. I'm gonna sort this damn thing, so it's gonna be convert this into a sorted element like this. Great. Now this is where the beef of our actual algorithm is, right? What I'm gonna do is set pretty much, all right, I'm gonna create some variables, which I'm gonna iterate through everything, give me the index of where this thing is, and what the number is of that, right? What I'm gonna do is check the number. If that number I'm at right now is greater than 0, I'm not even gonna bother doing it, because number, you can almost think of it as your target, right? From two sums. So if that's greater than 0, there's no way in hell it's gonna ever add, or subsequent things on the right side and left side will ever be added to 0, right? All right, cool. Well, I guess there will be the case of 0, 0, 0, 0, but okay, cool. If number equals to num index minus 1, what do we do with this, right? Okay, cool. So num index minus 1, if I do this, so obviously the left index is 4. It's not, equal to anything negative to that. So we're just going to continue. Great. Cool. I'm going to add 1 minus 1. So this one's going to be your left index plus 1. So that's going to be your -1, and then this is going to be your 2, and so on and so forth. You go down here, of course, your sum for this one is going to be added together. It's going to be -5. That's basically -3, right? So that's not 0. So what do? It's not -0, but we know that, okay, well, your temper is going to be less than 0. So what are we going to do? We're going to increase this one to up here, right? But, as we keep going, like, okay, well, that's a repeat. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. And that's not going to work. And then, oh, wait, we're just going to return an empty thing, right? So let's check it out. So there's that one will return, won't return yet, because that we're just checking all the possibilities for this one. Now we have to check the possibilities for the ones, and so on and so forth. And I think this would solve the problem. So let's run and check it out. Run. Oh no, did I mess something up? Okay, cool. Forgot something here, which is, can you remember? I forgot my brackets. Oh, I hate syntax. Cool. All right, run. Great. Something. Oh, I forgot to invoke it. This is completely sloppy of me. Great. It provides the solution. Great. And that's pretty much it. That's the problem. That's the solution. I hope you like this solution. I'm gonna actually post this link on LeetCode as well. If you like these type of solutions, I'm gonna try to do this. I'm gonna try, not gonna guarantee. I'll try my best to do like a daily problem, so we can all improve and try to increase our ability to solve these problems. And who knows, open up your possibilities in the future, right? If you like these type of questions, please subscribe and follow. Or if you have a question on a specific question you want me to try to solve, please note on the description below, or not description below, but like the comments below, and I'll answer you relatively quickly. Well, thanks for attending, and we'll chat soon. Bye.